What if your entire life was already written in the planets? Schopenhauer didn't believe in astrology, but he proposed something even more unsettling. Each stage of our life, childhood, desire, ambition, wisdom, and death, is governed by a symbolic force. In this video, we'll explore the complete cycle of human existence, from Mercury to Uranus, to discover how time shapes our consciousness and why, in the end, everything reveals itself as a cycle of illusion. Schopenhauer argued that while a man's individual character cannot be predicted from the planets, as astrology claims, the general course of human life can be compared to the succession of planets. Each stage of life falls under the influence of a planet at its appointed time. At age 10, Mercury rises. Like this planet, a man at this age is characterized by extreme mobility within a limited scope, where trivialities greatly affect him. Yet, guided by such a clever and eloquent God, he progresses easily. Venus begins its reign in a man's 20s when he is wholly devoted to the love of women. At 30, Mars takes over, and the man becomes energetic, strong, bold, belligerent, and arrogant. By 40, he falls under the influence of the four asteroids. His life gains breadth, he is frugal, favors utility, and has his own home. Ceres aids in acquiring property, Vesta teaches him what he needs to know, Pallas grants wisdom, and his wife, Juno, rules as the lady of the house. At 50, Jupiter dominates. The man has outlived most of his peers and feels superior to the younger generation. Still in full strength, rich in experience and knowledge, he holds authority over those around him if he has power or position. He no longer takes orders but gives them, suited to guide and govern in his sphere. This is Jupiter's peak, when a 50-year-old man is at his best. Then at 60, Saturn arrives, heavy, slow, and leaden. Finally, Uranus comes, or as it's said, the man ascends to the heavens. Death is the great reservoir of life. Everything comes from Orcus, the abode of the dead, and all that lives now was once there. If we could understand the trick behind this, everything would become clear. People may warn us about the fleeting nature of time, but when young, life seems like an infinite horizon stretching endlessly before us. We live in the present, unconcerned about the future, feeling there will always be more time, more opportunities. Only someone who has lived long enough, who has seen years vanish like a flowing river, can look back and grasp how quickly time passes. An old man might warn a young one, with sincerity and regret, that days, months, and years slip away before you notice. He might insist youth is not eternal, that every seemingly insignificant moment adds to the great tally of time, leading us to a future where we wonder how it all passed so fast. But the young man cannot truly understand, not from lack of intelligence, but because he hasn't felt that loss. Time is still abstract to him, an inexhaustible resource. Our perception of time changes with age. Only in old age, looking back, do we understand what we were told. Life is brief. The endless days of youth feel like a sigh, and we arrive at a point where we can only remember what once was, wondering where all those years went. We're caught in daily routines, only realizing too late that life's moments were fleeting, like sand slipping through our fingers. By becoming aware of time's relentless flow, we can learn to appreciate the moment, value life's beauty, and face its challenges with wisdom. Each life stage brings advantages and disadvantages. By understanding where we are, where we've been, and where we're going, we can better navigate existence. That's Schopenhauer's answer to what we can hope for from life. Schopenhauer's aphorisms on the wisdom of life serve as both an explanatory model and a tool for self-assessment, analyzing life's phases from a philosophical and empirical perspective. He evaluates transitions from youth, marked by cognitive plasticity and optimism, from inexperience to old age, where accumulated experiences alter perception and response to reality. Schopenhauer reflects on time's nature and its impact on individual consciousness, noting how subjective time varies due to habituation, episodic memory, and anticipation of the future. His work offers a descriptive framework of the human life cycle and suggests rational strategies for decision-making based on each stage's possibilities and limitations. Schopenhauer concludes his analysis with an essay likening life's stages to the solar system's planets, written in old age as a structured reflection on life's development and challenges. We begin with birth and childhood, represented by Mercury, the first planet orbiting the Sun. Around age 10, childhood is marked by adaptability, rapid learning, and a worldview limited to a small environment. Schopenhauer links this stage to Mercury, associated with Hermes, the god of eloquence and cunning. Children are highly receptive to new stimuli, finding joy in simple things, and their consciousness is not yet dominated by the will to live, which later brings desires and tensions. In puberty, the individual is not yet fully conditioned by biological reproductive drives, allowing cognition to prevail over instincts. The consciousness is less mediated by desire and lack, permitting a purer perception of the world. But with puberty come challenges as we become aware of intense desire and sexual attraction. Schopenhauer wrote that the will is concentrated in the genitals, and with puberty's hormonal surge, we become acutely aware of a reality dominated by libido. At this stage, Venus, the second planet in Schopenhauer's symbolic sequence, takes prominence. Associated with the goddess of love, Venus represents the influence of erotic impulses on behavior and thought, shifting focus from intellectual exploration to fulfilling biological needs. By 20, Venus dominates and love consumes the individual. The endless whims of sexual desire keep people in a state of constant, moderate madness while under its influence. The sexual impulse also drives our desire to be social, as we seek partners directly or indirectly by elevating status or wealth. Schopenhauer, a misanthrope, saw society as a collection of fools engaged in trivial pursuits like debating fleeting fashions or attending purposeless parties. He believed solitude was the genius's refuge, but unbearable because sexual desire pushes us toward others. Puberty is difficult not only because we become slaves to the will, but also because we begin to differentiate. Schopenhauer notes that children are mostly alike and harmonize well, but in puberty, as individual differences grow, this harmony fades. Nature plays a cruel trick, instilling an impulse that drives us toward things just when they make us unhappiest. Under Venus's influence, we chase fleeting sexual pleasures that briefly satisfy before disillusioning us. By 30, Mars rules, endowing the person with ferocity, strength, courage, belligerence, and defiance. Schopenhauer believed human intellectual capacity peaks around 26, but sexual instincts distract us from fully using this mental power. Under Mars, we shift focus to careers and culture. Though raw intellectual capacity declines, cultural knowledge and life experience grow, balancing the loss. By 50, this balance allows true genius to shine, unhindered by hormonal distractions and armed with experience and education. Before that, Schopenhauer pauses at the 4 asteroids between Mars and Jupiter, symbolizing how in our 40s we put our house in order after accumulating wealth, experience, and status in our 30s. Ceres represents property, Vesta knowledge, Pallas wisdom, and Juno the wife as the household's lady. At 50, Schopenhauer says the individual reaches the peak of intellectual and creative capacity. Under Jupiter, the mind, largely freed from youthful impulses and distractions, achieves unprecedented clarity and depth. Many influential figures like Kant produced their greatest works at this age. Kant published Critique of Pure Reason at 57, revolutionizing Western philosophy. At 50, the man outlives most peers, feels superior, and, rich in experience, exercises authority. He gives orders suited to lead in his sphere. This is the age of true independence as we settle into our role in the world. But by 60, time's passage becomes undeniable, manifesting in declining physical and mental vitality. Schopenhauer associates this stage with Saturn, symbolizing the weight of years and inevitable physiological decline. Historically linked to melancholy and reflection on life's finitude, Saturn brings awareness of mortality. Life takes on a different aspect, like a candle slowly burning out. The illusion of permanence from earlier decades fades, replaced by a lucid understanding of human finitude. Time is no longer an ally for future plans, but a force reducing the span to the end. Schopenhauer recommends prioritizing health to maintain vitality, as he did with daily walks and cold baths. With Uranus's arrival, the final stage begins, symbolizing the transition to the unknown, described as entering the heavens. Schopenhauer equates this with death, not just as the end of individual life, but as the dissolution of identity into a broader reality. While he didn't believe in personal immortality, he saw the will as the essence of existence continuing beyond the individual. Astronomically, Uranus isn't the solar system's last planet, as Neptuno was already discovered in Schopenhauer's time. He felt Neptuno's name disrupted his analogy's symmetry, so Uranus marked the final point in his philosophical scheme. Schopenhauer's view of death transcends Freud's concepts of eros and thanatos. For him, death is the foundation of existence, and life is a fleeting manifestation of the will, originating and returning to an abyss. This cyclical view echoes ancient myths where life and death are phases of one process. Everything comes from Orcus, the Roman abode of the dead, and all that lives has passed through it. If we could grasp the mechanism of this continuous transmutation, existence would be fully revealed. Schopenhauer lamented Neptuno's name, but might have found Pluton, the underworld god, a fitting conclusion had he lived to see its discovery. Pluton would confirm the universe as a flow between existence and nothingness. In Parerga and Paralipomena, Schopenhauer says the first half of life gives the text, the second the commentary. He leaves not just an astronomical metaphor, but a warning. Life is short, and when we understand its structure, we've often traveled most of the path. Each planet is a stage that doesn't return. While we cannot stop time, we can change our relationship with it. Wisdom, arriving late like Saturn or Uranus, lies in living each moment aware of its fleeting nature. As Schopenhauer said, the first half of life is the text, the second the commentary. What will you do with the time you have left? Thank you for watching.